Howdy everybody. I just wanted to make a video because I felt like it's finally time to talk about LA, Hollywood, Obie Clever, American Idol, all of it. So buckle up kiddos, cause it's gonna be a long old ride. But I have had a few people ask for an explanation, and instead of writing messages back to everyone about the things that happened, I just thought, why not make a video? I am far too lazy to respond to that many people at that length of a message. Anyway, I digress. So I'm coming to you en natural today because I felt like that was an appropriate theme for the video. I'm not trying to make my apartment look cleaner than it is. I am not putting on makeup or a cute ass outfit. I'm just coming to you as I am because I think that this video is meant to be very vulnerable and real and raw, so I don't really want to edit anything about it. So if you're offended by my face and my hair and my acne and my size of my body, you can get the heck on out of here. All right, let's get into it. So I guess the first thing to talk about would be Obie Clever and what happened with that, and that will kind of lead us into LA. So yeah. I was in a band for like 12 years with the person that I was in Obie Clever with, and we'd had many variations of bands, but we finally settled on this one. And we reached out to this manager in LA who was known for working with people like Jimmy Eat World, All American Rejects. He was responsible for Neon Trees and etc. So I thought that this guy was probably the guy to make the moves with, and it felt like my dreams were going to come true. I was very young when this all first started. I want to say I was probably I was early 20s. We'll say early 20s, but I mean, we started this when I was 18 or 19, so we've been going at it for a while. But we got in touch with this manager, and he actually responded, and it felt like, holy shit, my dreams are coming true. This is happening. We're doing this. We went to LA and had a meeting with them. We had sushi and they introduced themselves, and right off the bat, I was very intimidated. I mean, just in general, because I'm from Fillmore, Utah, so not used to big wigs in any scenario. So it was very intimidating, but I was also so excited. I felt like we're off to a good start. So anyway, the meeting went well. Long story short, we signed a contract, and they only sent us the last few pages of the contract to read over, and we probably should have hired a lawyer to go over it, but we didn't, and we signed it, and I just didn't really even think about it. I was so young and naive and stupid that I was like, whatever, dude, just hand me a pen, I'll sign it. I don't care. So we did the thing. A few years go by, and we start getting some traction. We start getting placement in Spotify playlists, YouTube playlists, we're getting blogs posting about us, and we're getting some momentum, and I'm starting to feel excitement, but also pressure. So the person I was making music with at the time, I had known him since I was 16 years old. We were best friends and worst enemies. He was the first boy I ever fell in love with, and I loved him super hard. I would have done anything for him, even though I fucking hated him. I just thought that that's kind of what real love meant, I guess. If you really care about someone, you also hate them. Unhealthy relationships, people. Fun times. This person was also a sociopath or a narcissist or both. I did not recognize the manipulation and the emotional and psychological abuse that had been happening since day one because I was too young and naive to recognize it. It took time and really hard lessons to learn, but that's where the next story comes in. So this person and I had been making music for a really long time. We'd been grinding really hard, and our relationship had changed quite a bit. I still would have defended him to the death. And in fact, I defended him many times over severe accusations that were going around in Utah County. I even participated in victim shaming, which was a horrible lesson to learn and a horrible thing to do. Especially having that happen to me, like I had no right doing that at all. Have reached out to those women and apologized. And hopefully I have received forgiveness. However, that's the kind of relationship we had where he was abusive and would gaslight me. He knew me so well that he would like push the right buttons just the right amount of times. I would react the way he knew I would react, and then he would make me feel terrible for reacting that way. So on and so forth. I was not perfect in that relationship either. Anyone that knows me from my early 20s knows I was a shit show and a half. So, I will own my responsibility for the things that were not that tight in that relationship. I've always been able to own my wrongs. But I also thought that it was all me the entire time. That's what I was made to feel like. That it was only me with problems. I had an alcohol problem, I had mental health issues, and I was a mess. Emotionally, mentally, physically, everything. I was a mess. So it was easy to put all the blame on me, and it was easy for me to believe that it was all me because I was always the one fucking up. I was always the one who was like aggressively fucking up. So it was really easy for me to be the scapegoat for all that blame, and I just felt like I was a horrible person. I felt like I was the meanest, most fucked up person. I just felt like I was so angry all the time. I would just snap like out of nowhere. I would get in these just like heated arguments that like he was the only person that could bring it out of me sober. I'll just say that. But when I was drunk, I was like a hairpin trigger, just ready to go off. And I thought that was like my personality. I thought that was like a personality trait. And I'd struggled with anger my whole life, so it was easy for me to be like, oh yeah, well, you're just a bad person. That's why you're like this. So I felt really terrible, and I would try to make things right. Anyway, it was a lot of abuse going on. Fast forward, we signed this contract. We're in this for a couple years. We're getting some traction. I'd wanted to move to LA since I was like 16, and I was ready to do it. No one believed that I would ever take the jump to do it because I always talked about it, but I'm kind of one of those people that talks about it, never does anything about it. It's a really cool thing that I do. But this time I was like hell-bent on it. I was going to buy an RV. I was going to live in it. I was going to escape LA rent, and we were going to do the Hollywood thing. So we did, and I did. We moved to LA. We got there in October, and I had a little bit of sobriety under my belt, but I was still definitely struggling with alcohol. And when I got there, it just got worse. And this person and I's relationship started to get really strange. Like, he would get really jealous of me if I started dating people or hanging out with other people. And when it was just he and I, we would just get high all day. We would just like sit on the couch, eat a bunch of food, and take advantage of the person who was housing us and feeding us while we were there, because we literally had no money and nowhere to live, and we had no idea what we were going to do, and no jobs, the dream, the Hollywood dream. People will tell you like Hollywood's a grind. I went out there with $700 in a dream, and I'm like, good for you, man. I don't have that kind of stamina, and also I hate Hollywood. Hate it. So we moved to West Hollywood. We were under the care of our sweet and beautiful entertainment lawyer, and she gave us everything. She let us live on her couch. We were only supposed to be there for a couple weeks. Of course, that's not how it turned out. I eventually got my RV, and I started dating somebody, so I like slyly moved in with him and then stayed in my RV from time to time. And this person that I was in the biz with continued to stay on her couch and wasn't really making an effort to get a job or meet people. He was very focused on just getting high and like eating all her food and like never feeding her cat that we took care of, or we were supposed to help take care of when she was out of town. Anyway, so things started to get really sour, and I had been wanting to quit this band for so long. So many times I called threatening, like, I'm done. I am not doing this anymore. I'm not working with him anymore. I refuse to. I'm done with this. And then one of the managers would step in. He was one of those managers that was like never a part of anything until things started to fall apart, and he would be the one that would come in and be like, here, let me put a Band-Aid on it. There, now you're good. Keep going. And chop chop. That was the theme. Chop chop. And the abuse wasn't just coming from the person I was making music with. It was coming from every single side of my circle. And it was so, like, now I look back on it and I've done so much healing and processing, I'm like, holy fuck. Like, the things I put up with. Also, sorry if my fingers are orange. I ate Cheetos, so just, okay, I'm living my best life right now. Just let me have it. Anyway, I forgot where I was. Anyway, so he's leeching off her, and I'm trying to go out and make friends and make connections and network. Basically, I was actually just going out to party. All I wanted to do was party, because that's where the networking is done. That is the industry. You go out, you have drinks, you meet people, and that's all LA is. Everywhere you go is an opportunity to network or meet someone. You never know who you're going to see. So this is the part of LA that I want to talk about, because this is the part that I struggled the most with. There's a bus going by, it's loud. When I got to LA, I thought that I had a stronger sense of self. I thought that I had started to find this identity. I thought that because I had some sobriety under my belt, that I was on the mend, and like I was ready for the challenge of LA, because I knew it was going to be hard. I wasn't like doe-eyed about it. I was like, okay, this is going to be a struggle. Hey, what are you barking at? What are you barking at? I knew it was going to be a struggle. I was aware of the challenges that lie ahead, and I thought I was ready for them. Well, it turns out I wasn't. When I got there, life was very disorganized. I didn't really have like a place to put all my stuff. It was really hard, and living in an RV in LA is a terrible idea. I do not suggest it, especially if you're in West Hollywood. You will get impounded, and if you're lucky to avoid impounding, you will get ticketed till you die. Like, it's a constant. So I had just so many challenges right away. You know, housing, money, a job, transportation, just so much shit. Like, I won't go into all of it because it's seriously like so much, but so much shit happened to me in LA. So I thought I was starting to like go the direction I wanted to go. I was really excited, and the person I was making music with he was not happy with me. He was upset that I was out trying to like make a life for myself, get a job, like do stuff, you know. He did not like that. And he also was very protective. That's what he would call it, I guess. I would just say controlling. He didn't like knowing that I was going to go out and party under the guise that he cared about me and like cared about my livelihood and my health and my overall well-being. But I don't think that that's what it was. I think it was more of a way for him to like control me. I don't know. I've tried to dissect this so many times and psychoanalyze this sucker, but I just can't do it. I ain't a professional. So it's just, anyway. So all of this was happening, and it's like almost New Year's, and we had plans to go to one of our musician friends' house for one of their famous musician artist parties, and it was really fun. It was like this group of really solid people. It was a guy that we had performed with a few times, and you know, he was a really good person, and I knew him and I adored him. I just thought he was like this pure, sweet little soul. He always took us in when we needed him. He was a badass, like just a really good, solid guy. And so I trusted him, and I trusted everyone that surrounded him, because you know, good people don't hang out with shitty people. That was my logic, right? So we were meant to go party with these people for New Year's, and we had this plan to go do that. And then I started dating somebody before New Year's, and then I decided, you know what? I actually really want to spend New Year's with my boyfriend, because I would rather spend it with him and have like a quiet, calm evening as opposed to like partying with a bunch of, you know, randoms. I mean, yes, my good friends will be there, but you know, I was like, they're your friends too, you should go. Like, you should really go and make some friends and like socialize, you know. But the problem is that nobody liked him. It was like very difficult for me to take him places because I constantly had to apologize for him, or like shit would just get really awkward. He would say something so weird, and I'm weird. I like weird, but he would say stuff that was very like off-putting and like not, I can't explain it. I honestly can't explain it. People didn't like him though. Got to the point where if we were doing interviews, I told management that I needed to be the one who answered the questions because he couldn't do it. It was too painful to watch and like be a part of. Anyway, so we were supposed to party together. I bailed on him to hang out with my boyfriend at the time, and I was not aware of this, but he was very upset. And I get it, you know, getting flaked on sucks, and I felt really bad, but I also was like, you are an adult person. You can go do whatever you want, and I'm my own person. If I want to hang out with my boyfriend, I'm going to do that. So 4 or 5 days goes by, and I've heard nothing from him, and I'm reaching out to him, I'm calling him, I'm texting him, I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry, I love you, I know that was shitty of me, I'm such a bad friend, I always shouldered all the blame, you know, and I'm like, I feel like a piece of shit, like, I love you, please come talk to me, like, whatever. Nothing. And then finally I was like, hey man, like, where are you? We need to write music, we need to do photo shoots, we need to get like video shoot ideas, we need to get like shit in motion, we need to start doing co-writes. And he finally responded, and he was like, I'm in Utah. And I was like, you're in Utah? For how long? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, are you ever coming back? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, bruh, we lived on 2 separate couches that were right next to each other in the tiniest living room, and we did nothing. Now you're in Utah, and you think that music can still happen with me in LA and you in Utah. In what reality, you know me, like, in what reality would this ever work for us? It wouldn't. Like, there's no way. So I expressed my concerns to management, and they were like, well, we'll make it work. We just need to, blah, blah, blah. We'll just put you to work. So we're trying to figure everything out, and I go on this co-writing session for the first time in LA by myself as a female to a studio in LA, in Hollywood. And I was so excited. I was so nervous and so in my head. My anxiety was like through the roof because I was fucking alone. Like, I'm like, oh my God, what if I can't produce anything? What if I can't write anything? What if I like, my brain stops working and I'm just not able to produce anything, and they hate me and they never want to work with me again, and then I get fired or something? I don't know. You know, anxiety brain. But I was really excited. So I got all cute. I wore a little crop top with straps and like a high-waisted skirt. And this is an important detail for later, so just put that in your pocket, save it for later. I went to this co-writing session where I was thrown into a room with the producer and like his right-wing guy. Like, actually the producer had nothing to do with it at all. He just like told the guy to press the space bar and run this loop, and then expected me to write a top line over it, like a catchy phrase over it, and then record it. And then they like left me in there alone, and then the computer stopped working, and I didn't want to push anything and fuck anything up. It was just very like scattered and very like nerve-wracking, and I need collaboration when I'm writing. I didn't at the time especially do my best alone because I second-guessed everything that I did. I just assumed everything that I wrote was garbage, and some miracle would allow me to write a song that was semi-listenable and be approved by the label and management. But I was gonna fail this time, I felt, and it was awful. Then the producer comes back in with the guy, and we're just chatting, and like the session's over because there's nothing happening. We start talking about his wife and his children and where he lives and like blah blah, his whole life. And then he's like, oh, we're going to Nobu later. You know, it's a really nice restaurant. Have you ever been? And I'm like, no, I don't even know what it is. And he's like, you don't know what Nobu is? Oh my God, you have to come. You should come to dinner with us. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, well, what the fuck is Nobu? So Nobu is this very like posh, like super fucking bougie restaurant. It's like sushi and like drinks, and it's like absurdly expensive, and a lot of celebrities go there. It's like the place to go. So I'm excited as fuck because I'm like, oh my God, this is my first Hollywood experience. This is the real shit that happens. Like, this is how it starts. This is like my moment. And his main selling point for me to come to dinner was that 3 other well-established songwriters in the country music industry were going to be there. Those of you that know me, I'm a redneck without the political views, okay? I am country. And one of them had written songs for like Alan Jackson, George Strait, just like some big old names. And I was like, yes, I need to meet these people. I need to meet these people. Because even though I'm making indie pop music, or I'm supposed to be making this alternative indie pop music, my heart's telling me I want to make country music and I want to make it with those guys. So here I go in my shitty Buick, my 1989 Buick, boat of a car, just like pulling up to Nobu, to the valet. I'm like, hey, this is what I got. So I get in, I'm feeling like, okay, I look so cute, and like, I'm gonna walk in here like I am the boss-ist bitch in the place. And I did, and then I was so nervous, of course. We're waiting for these 3 other guys to get there. We finally get a table. I've had a few drinks at this point. And then they start to buy us all sake. Actually, no, I didn't have anything to drink before dinner. We were talking. I didn't have anything to drink. We sat down for dinner. They offered to buy sake for the table. And so, of course, I was trying not to drink, but I was like, I'm gonna need some liquid courage because I'm gonna sell myself to these people right now and I'm gonna get something out of it. So I drank some sake, quite a lot, and I got pretty drunk. I guess that I came across as very flirty because I had said things like, I think I was trying to say, oh my God, we're best friends now. These are all men in like their late 40s to early 70s, keep in mind, okay? At the time, I was 27-ish? 27, 28? 27. Who cares? I was in my 20s, okay? These are all quite a lot older, wealthy, powerful, established white men. Okay? So I tried to call them my best friend, and I accidentally said breast friend, and then I thought it was funny, so I kept running with it. Continued to just call them my breast friend all night, and apparently that meant that I was saying, please have sex with me. Let me offer you myself. So the night progressed. We didn't talk about business at all. All we talked about was how wealthy they were, how many cars they had, all these things, right? And I was just so impressed. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my life right now. This is so cool. This is what you hear about, you know? And then they decided to invite me back to their hotel to go swimming. After which point I told them, well, I don't have a swimming suit. And they were like, just go in your bra and underwear. And I was like, well, I'm not wearing a bra under this either, so I guess I'll just wear this. And then I was like, okay, let's do it. And the producer that I was working with, who I will now name as Gavin Brown, not a well-known guy, but he was made to sound like he was this big deal, okay? But his name's Gavin Brown. I was told he worked with Metric, and Metric was one of my favorite bands, so I was very excited about that. He also worked with, like, 3 Days Grace. I think I Hate Everything About You was like one of the hits that they wrote, one of like 2 songs they wrote, I don't know. Anyway, they invited me to go back to go swimming, and I was drunk at this point, so I was like, oh my God, totally, I love adventure, let's do it. And I genuinely didn't think anything of it. Like, I wasn't concerned about anything. I was like, oh, I'm just this girl going alone with 4 men to a hotel in Hollywood where they have a pool, and that's all that's gonna happen. Gavin ended up coming with me in my car, and I was humiliated because my car was such an old car, and like, I took decent care of it, but it was an old ass car, and it was also like, I was going back and forth from so many places all the time that I had a lot of stuff in that car. So I was humiliated, but he gets in my car and we drive to this famous Hollywood hotel that wealthy people stay in. And I parked my car in the valet again. Why? Why do wealthy people need valet? It's so embarrassing for poor people, okay? We get to this hotel, it's beautiful, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so cool, I'm so excited. We get to the hotel room, and he pulls out a rather large baggie of snow and dumps it onto the table. And it's like a good sized mound of snow. And then they began to do some and asked me if I wanted any, and I said, I'll do a key bump, because I was a little afraid of the cocaine. So I thought, better not do a lot. I need to keep my wits about me. So I did a little bit, and then I started getting a little anxious. So I went in the bathroom, had like a quick little conversation with myself, and then as the night progressed, Gavin kept like touching me inappropriately, and I kept telling him to stop because A, I knew he was married, and B, I was like, your friends are here and they're watching this, and I feel very uncomfortable, and also like, I don't want you touching me. I think that's a good enough reason to tell someone no. But he proceeded to try, and eventually he went under my shirt and did other things, leading me to be traumatized. At one point, I was left with one of the oldest men in the room. Keep in mind, I'm the only female here, and it's just 4 men and me. Rich, powerful men and me. And I ended up in bed with the oldest one there, and I this is what sobered me up, this is what's crazy and gross. I could like hear him breathing in my ear, and suddenly I was made aware that his breathing reminded me of the way my 89-year-old grandpa breathed. And then I sobered up and I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? It was like this switch, like I was completely like out of it, and then suddenly I was like, oh my God, I'm alone in a room with these men. I don't know these men. No one knows I'm here. Like, no one even knows me. I need to get out of here, like, right now. So I got my keys, I got all my stuff, ran out of the room. I ended up leaving my valet ticket in the room, but I was just like, oh my God. And then Gavin called, and he's like, oh, I heard you left. And I was like, yeah. It's like, I forgot my valet ticket though. And he was like, oh, well, come up and get it. And I'm like, no. And I just needed to leave. So I was like, look, to the valet guy, I was like, look, my car is the shitty Buick. It's the only shitty car here, I bet. Find the shitty car, it's mine. Just please help me get out of here. And I'm like crying, very distressed. I'm like, please help me. So I get my car and I leave, and I immediately called the boyfriend that I was dating. And I was like, hey, this thing just happened, and I'm not sure if I should feel as like traumatized as I do right now, but I'm kind of like freaking out a little bit. And he was like mad at me somehow. And I was like, I just thought I was doing music. I didn't kiss I didn't even touch anyone. Wait, why are you mad at me for this? And then it was a whole thing, and I told my entertainment lawyer what happened, and she was like, absolutely not. That is not okay and should not have happened. And I went to report it to the police, and I was interviewed by a female detective who then proceeded to ask me, what were you wearing? Well, you understand that wearing those types of clothing gives men ideas about you. How much did you have to drink? I could tell this woman exactly how much I had to drink, exactly the last time that I had a drink, because I looked at my phone when I took my last drink of sake. That was the last thing I drank. Get to the hotel. I did 1 bump of Coke, a tiny little key bump of Coke, and that was it. And I was able to tell her all of this, and she basically just chastised me and was very dismissive and made me feel very stupid for even attempting to report that anything happened to me. The case was made, and they reached out to the men, and it was 3 powerful, rich, white men and their word against mine. So who do you think won on that one? It wasn't me, baby. So anyway, that was the first like really traumatic thing that happened. And then person that I was making music with was still living in Utah. We were still kind of trying to work things out. I moved on from this whole thing, and then I was still dating this person at the time. And randomly, out of nowhere, I get a text from my boyfriend who said, I don't think you meant to send this to me. Oh, it was an email. He emailed me, I don't think you meant to send this to me. And I was like, what the hell? I haven't emailed anyone today. So I opened it, and in it were messages that I had exchanged with a gentleman and photographs, and actually an entire Google Drive of nudes and videos of me. Some of which weren't even on my phone anymore. They were from years ago, which is when I pieced together that the person behind this was my ex-bandmate. And it was very traumatizing. I had never felt more violated, because I'm talking about like archives of videos and pictures of me that I didn't even have access to anymore. Snapchats that had long since been deleted. I mean, it was really violating, and I knew exactly who it was. That was handled, and I told my label, I said, I'm not working with him anymore. I have given you guys plenty of reasons for you to pull me out of this bullshit with him. I don't need him to make music. They constantly told me you could never do it without him because he's the glue that holds the band together. Without him, you wouldn't get anything done. You're incapable of working. You're so lazy. You're so unproductive. He's the only one who would ever put up with all the shit you put him through. So every time I tried to leave, I was reminded that I would never be anything without him. But I told them, I don't care anymore. I have a fire lit under my ass now, and I will do something without him, because I'm not doing anything with him ever again. I don't want to see him. I don't want to hear his name. I don't want to talk to him. I'm done. And they were like, sorry, dirt bikes, cute. But they were like, okay, we hear you, fine. And after I had told them what had happened with Gavin Brown, they didn't really have any room to give me shit anymore, because I had already endured something traumatic, and now this was happening. Give me what I fucking want, please. Thank you. So I was able to have a conversation with him where eventually he did admit to what he did. He then decided to manipulate me some more and tell me some absolutely untrue things about his mental state and his mental health as a way to manipulate me into getting back into some sort of anything with him, because he knew what he did was like unforgivable. And that was that. So that ended. And then a fire was lit under my ass, and I worked my ass off. I was going to co-writing sessions all the time. I never showed up drunk. But I was partying excessively, and I was becoming very suicidal. It was the lowest I've ever been in my life. LA is one of the most difficult places to live in the United States, I think. Every relationship you make, except for the very close friends that I already had that happened to live in LA at the same time I was living there. And I did have some close friends that I made through them and through the music that I was making. So I was very fortunate to have good people in my life. But aside from those people, LA is filled with just very superficial and self-serving people. If you can't do anything to help them in their career, they want nothing to do with you. You're just a waste of time, and time is money. So nope, on to the next. And that destroyed me, because I'm a very emotional and sensitive person. I need genuine connection. I need authenticity. And when I don't receive it and I'm giving it, it destroys me. And it did. And I started drinking way more and way more dangerously. I was drinking literally while I was driving. I somehow managed to not get a DUI the entire time that I lived there, which is beyond me. Like, that does not make sense. I shouldn't be alive, honestly. I don't know how I still am, but by some miracle, here I am, still kicking, sober from alcohol. Thank you very much. But LA almost broke me. And those two things that I described were just the tip of the iceberg of things that happened to me in that city. There were so many things. I just want to say that being a woman in the industry, I got a peek behind the silver screen that everyone thinks Hollywood is. And I will tell you that it is not what you think it is at all. Everything is fake. TV is fake. TV shows are fake. They're all scripted. It's all fake. None of it's real. And what goes on behind the scenes is so disgusting and just, it's brutal. And if you're not careful, it'll destroy you. I mean, hello, Amy Winehouse, Britney Spears, Robin Williams, all these people, Heath Ledger. The list goes on and on. Anyway, we'll get into that. So LA was destroying me. It was killing me. But I told myself I would do at least a year. So I did. And I'm telling you, like, one thing after another kept happening. Just one horrible, crazy, insane thing after another. It didn't stop for the entire time that I lived there. I never had a break from it. There was always something. And I was gonna die if I stayed there. I would either do it by my own hand or by the hand of alcohol. And I finally made the decision to save my own life and move back to Utah. And that was the hardest decision I ever made because it felt like moving back to Utah meant I was a failure and that I had failed. And all these people had all these high expectations of what I would do, that I would someday become famous, I would become something great. And I always believed that. I had this belief in me that I was special and I was gonna do something with my voice and I was gonna use this talent for something positive. And I was gonna get famous, I was gonna be a rock star, and that was always the goal. So coming back to Utah felt like absolute failure. And it was really hard, but I had to get sober. I had to get clean from alcohol or I would die. And the fact was I didn't actually really want to die. I just wanted to stop feeling the pain that I was constantly in. So fast forward, I was living at home and I was doing really well. I had a lot of sobriety under my belt. I was working out regularly, eating healthy. I was in a healthy relationship. I was happy. I was like crushing it. I was crushing it, people. And the opportunity presented itself to audition for The Voice. So I was really excited and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something that scares me. Like, after getting sober, I had to relearn how to be a person. It was really, really hard and terrifying to socialize with anybody because I felt like my entire identity was stripped away. Like, I didn't have religion anymore and I didn't have alcohol anymore, and I didn't have music anymore, so who the fuck am I? I don't know. No idea. So it was really difficult, that transition back into normalcy, right? So everything scared me. But I was like, I'm pushing myself to do things that scare me. I want to enrich my life. I want to grow. I need to evolve. So I said yes, and I went to the audition, and I did okay. I didn't get in. I was definitely denied, but it felt so good to be doing something again, musically speaking. I had auditioned for American Idol 2 times before, years before. I auditioned in 2008 and then again in like 2014 or something like that. And each time that I got rejected, it destroyed me so badly. I told myself I would never audition for anything again because I can't handle rejection like that. I don't do well with it. I'm a fucking Leo. I don't like to be rejected. So, the bounce back from those times was so long. I was like, I'm never doing that to myself again. Nope, not doing it. But then this audition presented itself. So I was like, hey man, if I get rejected, I don't care. It's all right. The fact that I went and tried speaks volumes to me about my growth. And that's what I care about right now. So I did it. I got denied, but I was still happy I did it. It didn't affect me negatively at all. I was so proud of myself. And then the same person who got me that audition was like, hey, I have friends in American Idol and I'm able to get private auditions. Would you like to audition? I was like, yes. Or he's like, would you like me to send them your audition tape? I was like, I mean, why not? Might as well, right? Just go ahead. I know they'll say no, but I'm down, whatever. So he sent it, they liked it, they got a Skype audition from me, and then I went to Denver and auditioned and got accepted, and then I went to Hollywood, and this is where it all starts. So the whole process with American Idol, I signed this insane contract. Like, it would take me months to read the entire contract. I'm also a slow reader, and I don't enjoy reading legal jargon, so it would take me twice as long. But all of that to say, it was a crazy contract. You're basically signing your entire life over, and you can't really talk about anything after the show or before the show airs. So I don't know if I'm even allowed to talk about this, but I'm going to, because no one knows who I am, and if they see it and they try to sue me, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna take my apartment? Are you gonna take my vacuum? You can take it, because it's really like all I have, so you can have it, honestly, if you need it that badly. But anyway, I'm going to tell you what that whole process was like. So first and foremost, it was so exciting to even have made it that far, because it was the farthest I'd ever made it. And it was like, oh my God, look at me. Like, I'm finally like getting somewhere with this. So an important thing to note is that the age cutoff for auditions for, I think, any type of entertainment show, well, okay, American Idol specifically, is 28. When I auditioned, I was 28. Like the Skype audition, the first private audition that I had, I was 28. But after that, I turned 29. So I was 29 when we were doing the interview process in actual Hollywood. So the auditions that you see, they're all staged. Nothing about it is real. Like, there is so much, like, being a part of it, I was like, oh my God, you guys are really good at tricking people. Like, everyone believes this is how it goes. Nope. All those conversations between contestants are staged. They literally tell you what to say, how to like express yourself. I would assume that even some of the drama on there is completely staged. But anyway, all that said, I get there, I flew into Long Beach by myself. I got a car. I was like so adult. I was like living my dream. I was so excited. And I was in the zone, man. I was like, I know I'm going to nail this this audition. I know I'm going to nail it. I am going to crush it. I just feel it in my bones. I know that this is it. Like, I'm going to do it. And this is my time. And I'm finally going to see my dreams come true. Like, this is going to be it for me. I know it. I feel it. So I got all ready. And the first day was the interview process, which is kind of like the little tidbits they use in between. And like, they tell your sad story or your really cool story or whatever to make people fall in love with you in America. And I told them about my battles with addiction and depression and how I was sober from alcohol and how excited and happy I was and healthy I was. And it was really a good interview. I felt really positive about it. I felt like I was on top of the world, to be completely honest. It was like the coolest thing ever. And I felt like I made a really good impression. The interview guy loved me, and I just felt so confident. And it was so cool to feel that way without alcohol, you guys. Like, that was the first time I was truly present in a moment that was that scale, you know? It was just really cool. So anyway, then my family met me in Hollywood. We stayed in this cute little Airbnb, and they were so supportive and sweet. They flew all the way out there to be with me, and they spent the entire day with me. We got there at like 6 a.m, and we were there until like after midnight. It was the longest day ever. It was exhausting, and we literally sat in this room from like 7 a.m. because it was like an hour and a half to get in at all. We're all just standing around, and I think that that's what they filmed to make it look like we're waiting for our auditions. We get into this room, and we're in there for like fucking hours. We're in there for hours with like nothing happening. We're just like, okay, so what do we do with ourselves? Like, what do we do? So everyone's just like jamming and playing music, but I didn't want to wear my voice out. I needed it in top condition, so I wasn't really singing. But it was so cool to be in the room with so many talented people, also very intimidating. But it was like, we were all so different, and like, it was just so magical. And I had so many of my closest friends that were there to support me. I've never felt more loved than I felt that day. It was so special. Like, my closest people were there with me, supporting me. And just to see them so happy for me and like proud of me, it just felt so good. And it felt so good to experience it in the present moment. And I had never felt more myself in my life. I was like, oh my God, this is me. I'm being me for the first time in my whole life. So then the audition finally came. I auditioned for Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, and Katy Perry. I got to meet Ryan Seacrest, who, by the way, is as handsome as you think he is. He also smells very expensive, like so beautiful and fresh and so expensive. Like, he just smells like money. He'd just gotten off a flight and he was like so fresh and dewy. I'm like, man, must be nice. Must be nice. Anyway, got in to do the audition, and this season they had allowed people to have an accompanist. So I had my good friend Louie, shout out Louie, play the guitar for me, and we covered Bob Dylan, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, and I fucking crushed it. I crushed it. And I went in there with the name Brittany Stardust. I genuinely don't know how they got that name, or like, I think they saw it on my Instagram handle and just assumed or decided it was more flashy than Britney Shields. I don't know. But somehow they thought that was my name, and they're like, oh my gosh, is Stardust your last name? And I'm like, no, but it can be. And it was really cool. Like, we all vibed really well, and like celebrities in real life, I was so starstruck and I hated myself for it, but their skin is like as smooth as marzipan. They smell like the 4th of July. I love them. They're beautiful. They were truly that beautiful in real life. But, you know, had to also remember that I am poor and they are wealthy. But yeah, it was awesome. They all had very positive things to say, and it was like affirmation and validation that, yeah, I can sing. I really can. I am good. And I got it from all 3 of them, which had been something that had only happened, oh my God, words are so hard. Only happened like twice before I auditioned. I was one of the last people to audition. So that made me feel really cool that all 3 of them, especially Katy Perry, she had been saying no to most people all day. She said yes, and she loved me. And Luke Bryan loved me, and he had a lot to say. Like, he just kept going and going and going. And Katy Perry was like, what he's basically trying to say is that he likes you. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was amazing. It was so cool. And I don't care what anyone says. It was really cool to meet such iconic people. Like, it really was. It was a dream. And I was on cloud 9. And I got a golden ticket. I got all 3 of them to say yes. And I was ready to go. And then it was more interviewing, more filming, more staged shit, and then more contracts and more interviews. And then I had to fill out this insane psychological questionnaire. Psychological analyzation. God, I can't talk. Anyway, it was basically to determine whether or not I'm sane enough or stable enough to be on TV. My mom even said beforehand, she was like, be careful how you answer some of those questions, if you know what I mean. So it took like 3.5 hours to fill out this entire questionnaire, and then you had to meet with a psychologist, and he asked you a bunch of questions and phrased them really weird, and was really actually pretty rude. I was like trying to make jokes with him, and he was just like, anyway, next question. Interesting. Not a nice person. Okay, I didn't like that guy. Anyway, then more interviews. Anyway, we didn't get home to the Airbnb until like freaking 12:30 at night. I don't know. It was late. And they also made sure to tell us, hey, just so you know, you got a golden ticket, but that does not guarantee you a spot at Hollywood Week. We reserve the right to call you at any time and tell you that you're no longer eligible. And I'm like, cool, that sucks, but okay. I mean, like, I'm in. I made it like this far. This is enough. This is what I needed, you know, for myself. So I go back to Utah. I'm preparing. I'm shopping for outfits because, you know, I got to look on point. So I'm getting like everything ready, all my songs prepared. I'm rehearsing. I'm just doing all the things. 4 days before I was supposed to fly out to LA, they call me. It was one of their attorneys or someone called me and said, hi, I'm so sorry to tell you, but we've determined you're no longer eligible for the show. And I was like, oh, why? And she was like, well, I can't disclose that to you. There's a few reasons, but we just wanted to let you know you're no longer eligible. And I was like, okay, but why though? Like, is it because of the contract that I'm in with my management? Because they've given me permission to be released from that contract for this opportunity. She was like, no, it's not the contract, but we just have determined you're no longer eligible. And I'm like, I heard you the first time. Can I at least like see my audition tape? And she was like, no, I'm so sorry. We won't be able to disclose that to anybody. That will never be seen. Heartbroken is an understatement. I was devastated. I was absolutely just dejected. I spiraled really hard after that. I was really angry. I felt slighted. I felt so sad. It was like my dreams were right there, and then someone just came and snatched it out of my hand, and I was just like, wait, I wasn't done with that. Just gonna finish that. So it really fucked me up, to say the least. I did not do anything music related. I did not do anything music related for like 2 years after that, and it was impossible for me to write a song. Every time I sat down to try to write something, nothing would come out. And I just felt like, wow, my whole team was right. I am useless without the person I used to make music with. I really can't do this without him. I can't do this without them. They're going to give up on me. And I am going to be 40 years old living in my parents' basement, alone and single for the rest of my life, fat with several cats, in the words of my manager. The manager who also told me, I don't care what you wear, just make sure you look fuckable. To a girl in her early 20s. From a man in his, like, I actually never knew how old he was. Early 50s, I'm gonna say. Anyway, so that happened. And then I decided to continue to try and move on with my life. And I got a job as a waitress, which felt like a step down in my life, and it felt very, like, defeating almost. I almost felt, like, ashamed and embarrassed, which is so silly now that I look back at it, because being a waitress was the best thing that ever happened to me. I met people that I was able to help steer in the right direction of sobriety. I was able to make friends. I went to bars, and I had no temptation to drink. I was finding myself. I was finding myself joking with people and, like, going out to social things, and it felt so good to just be myself, and I was so happy. Then the pandemic hit. Lord Almighty, did the pandemic hit. And let me just tell you, pandemic times were the most necessary times for me personally and my growth and development as a person. I learned so much necessary shit during the pandemic, during quarantine specifically. One of my really close friends and fellow musicians took his own life during the pandemic, which is still really hard to talk about, but I was alone completely. I mean, I was pretty isolated anyway, but now I was twice as isolated in my room because I didn't want to be around anyone that I didn't know where they went all the time because I was terrified of this coronavirus. But I was forced to deal with that in my room alone, and I didn't get drunk. I did smoke a lot of weed, but eventually I ended up just dealing with it and grieving and feeling the sadness and weight of losing someone that you care about and love. And that was one of the most painful experiences I've ever gone through. I've lost people close to me in my life, but this was the first time a good friend of mine who wasn't finished on this earth lost their battle too soon, and it destroyed me. It was awful. But I was able to make it through that, and that showed me that I do have strength and that I am completely capable of surviving difficult things. Then I started watching things about the Free Britney movement, Britney Spears, and I started watching documentaries about her and Amanda Bynes and learning more about Nickelodeon and Disney and the absolute buffoonery that goes on behind the scenes. This is one reason I do love social media, because a lot of that shit has been exposed, which makes me feel a lot safer to express what happened to me in LA, which was on a much smaller scale and much less severe, but still, like, I understand to an extent. And I also got to see a little bit behind the scenes of fame and fortune. It's not that tight, people. It's not that tight. It steals your soul. It ain't worth it. Money cannot buy you happiness. Money cannot buy you anything but things. And who gives a shit about things? Because when you die, you can't take any of that with you, okay? I survived LA. I survived a pandemic. And I learned that I do not want to be famous. And this is the conclusion of the video. I thought my entire life, ever since I was 5 years old, the first time I remember the first dream that I ever had, and it was me on stage with Don Henley, and we were singing, and I was a rock star, and I was like killing it, and he was just crushing it. And then I had to keep my manager alive by feeding him tater tots throughout the set. So that really just was like a vision into the future, I felt. And that was always the end goal for me. It was always music and to be famous, to be a famous star, either an actress or a musician, whatever it was. I was going to be something famous. People were going to know who I was. And now that I have grown and I am in my 30s, fully grown-ass woman right here, I have realized that I don't want any of that. I mean, I look at women like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes who weren't allowed to have monumental fuck-ups without the entire world crucifying you for it and judging you for it. And every move you make is watched. You can't do anything without somebody taking a picture of it. I've had a lot of monumental fuck-ups in my life, and I'm sure that I will continue to have moments of like, Britney, you're wiser than this. Why are you still doing this dumb shit? You know? That's what life is. It's messy. It's full of mistakes. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow if, we're open to that. And these poor people have suffered at the hands of our entertainment, and it's actually devastating, especially for people of color, women of color, trans people of color, and trans people in the LGBTQ community, and women. So if you think that fame is what you want, go for it, and I hope that the industry is kind to you along the way. I hope you're kind to yourself along the way, most importantly. But if you're on the fence about it, from someone who had a very tiny, small taste of what it's like, there is nothing more fulfilling than being a waitress, living in a tiny studio apartment, barely scraping by financially, but I'm the healthiest and happiest I've ever been, mentally speaking. I'm not perfect, and I have a long ways to go. I still got a lot of work to do. There are layers to this shit. This healing never stops, okay? It's continual. It is forever. But that being said, I have finally healed from the trauma that I experienced in LA, and I have forgiven my ex-bandmate for the unforgivable shit that he did. Have not spoken to him since, and will never speak to him again. Keeping myself safe, keeping myself protected, setting healthy boundaries, respecting my worth and my value, and also realizing that I can still make music, I can still be happy, I can still do everything I ever wanted. I'm just gonna do it my way, and I'm gonna do it whenever it's right. So, to those of you who survived the pandemic with me, who maybe have made similar discoveries or on your way to making similar discoveries, just keep trucking, man. You gotta keep going. Be open to what the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is trying to teach you. Be receptive to those lessons, and remember, all that glitters ain't really that gold, guys. It could be just some sparkly gold spray paint in a can. Alright, Hollywood ain't that cool. It's not that sick. It's not that tight. Everybody there is so incredibly plastic. And I just ain't about it. I like myself. I hope you like yourself. And I hope this video... Oh my god, it's an hour! I guess I am gonna have to edit this. Bye!